Hello, today I'm bringing you my December wrap-up. Yes, it's a little late, no I don't care. So, I read technically 10 books, but I'll explain that in a minute. So, yeah, I officially completed my reading challenge for last year with these books because technically one of them was actually like 10 separate entries on Goodreads. So while that may have been cheating, I don't care. So let's get started with the first book I finished in December, and it feels like it was absolutely ages ago, but it was Armada by Ernest Cline. This book I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. It tells the story of Zach Lightman, who is just sitting in his class and he sees a UFO out the window, and he recognises the UFO from his favourite video game, Armada. And basically, there's an alien invasion, and the video game has been used to train pilots of drones, and it's really, really cool. Like, the whole way through, the plot keeps going, and I understand people saying the first bit is slow, but to me it wasn't that slow because I've read much slower books. I just think it was such a good book. Zach was such a fun protagonist, and the host of supporting characters were, as always, excellent. I just don't understand why it gets so much criticism, personally, and I just loved it. The writing was beautiful, and the climax was just astounding. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Keeping in this sci-fi vein, I then picked up Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and I gave this a 4.75 stars because it takes some adjusting, getting used to the unusual layout and stuff, and I think while it couldn't have been told any other way, I wouldn't have wanted it told any other way. I think I had to get used to it a bit. Apart from that, it's great. It tells the story of Cady and Ezra, who are a couple who break up on the morning that their small, like, planet thing gets invaded because of an illegal mining operation. And they are taken on these ships, and on one of them there is a virus that breaks out, and they have an AI who is in control, and it gets so complicated. It is so, so good. Like, I've never read a book like it, and I don't think I will again, except from the sequels, presumably, but I just loved it. Cady as a character was so cool. She was just so intelligent, and Ezra was such a little sweetheart. He was so nice, and I just wish we had the sequel already. It was just so fun. After that, I undoubtedly picked up my least favourite book of the month, which I did a full review for, and some of you may remember. It is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I gave this a 3.5 stars, and that is being generous. I just hated the second and third acts of the book. Like, the first third would have got a 5-star rating because it was so good, but then the rest happened. The Song of Achilles, if you didn't know, follows the story of Patroclus and Achilles and portrays them as lovers into the Trojan War and all of that. It's a retelling of the Iliad, so if you don't know the story, like, where have you been? It's a very well-known story. The relationship between Patroclus and Achilles was the most important part of it for me. And once the Trojan War started, it took such a back seat, and I just didn't care about the Trojan War at all. It wasn't important to me. This story could have been so beautiful because it just could have been, and it just wasn't. I mean, the last, like, 3 pages kind of redeemed it a bit, which is why I got a 3.5 stars and not like a 2.5. But I have to give it the merit for the first part, which was just a beautiful, beautiful exploration of these 2 boys, like, growing together and coming to understand their sexuality and their bodies, and it was just really well done. And then the Trojan War started, and I got really angry and really pissed off. So, this book. After that, I was in the mood for something a bit different, so I picked up The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, Maureen Johnson and Sarah Rees Brennan. These are a collection of short stories focused around Magnus. This is Magnus. And They were really fun. I gave it like a 4.5 stars overall because there were some stories I liked more than others. Mainly the ones nearer the present day I enjoyed more. I think my favourites were The Midnight Heir, Would to Buy a Shadowhunter Who Has Everything You're Not Officially Dating Anyway, The Last Stand on the New York Institute and The Course of True Love and First Dates. They were my favourites. Vampire Scones and Edmund Herondale was really good. And then The Rise of the Hotel du Mort and The Fall of the Hotel du Mort were really fun as a duo of stories. But like What Happened in Peru and The Runaway Queen, I didn't particularly like. I liked them, but they just weren't my favourites. And that's why I got a 4.5 stars, because some of the stories weren't as strong as others. But if you read The Mortal Instruments, pick it up, because it's just so worth it. It's just so fun. After that, I read the Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, which is why it's kind of like 10, but not 10 books for this. Because there is 10 short stories, and they are all listed individually on Goodreads at the moment, because the physical copy obviously hasn't come out yet. So this I enjoyed way more than the Bane Chronicles. Like, I love the Bane Chronicles, but the Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy were phenomenal. I think I gave the majority of them 5 stars, and as a whole, I think I'd give it a 5 stars because I enjoyed so many of it. It had so much more action, and followed a character I kind of related to more, which I'm not going to tell because you actually spoilers within the City of Heavenly Fire. But I just adored it, and it had some really beautiful moments, and it even had some really beautiful moments not involving that character, and then there were some tragic moments, and it was just beautiful. I can't wait to pick up the physical copy when it comes out later this year, but it's not out yet. Sad times. After that, I was in a Shadowhunter mood, so I reread the first 5 books in the Mortal Instruments. I literally read the first 5. I was going to read City of Heavenly Fire, but I decided I'm going to wait until Nearer Lady Midnight comes out for that. And I'm not going to give a plot synopsis for these because they are just so well-known books at this point. But I will say I gave the first 4. On this reread, I gave the first 4 5 stars, and then City of Lost Souls a 4-star. For me, this reread was really eye-opening because I've only read, each book once, which, as a series I adore, is pretty poor. But City of Bones especially really took me by surprise because when I attempted to read it the first time I didn't enjoy it, and the second time I did, but still not my favourite. But this time I adored it. Every single one of the first 4 I just love. City of Lost Souls for me is incredibly dull, not a lot happens, but the last 100 pages make up for that because it's so good. I mean, yes, this gets a lot of place moments, but it didn't have enough of the action. I feel like it was just a weaker entry, whilst these were all beautiful and perfect. And the last book I read in December, and indeed the last book I read in 2015, was The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. I gave this a 4.5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. It follows brother and sister Hazel and Ben, who live in a town on the edge of a dark forest, basically. And in the forest there is a boy with curly horns that is sleeping in a glass coffin. One day he vanishes, the coffin is in shards, and then it takes off from there. And I just loved it. It read like a fairy tale. It was just so beautiful. Holly Black's writing in this was just so perfect. It just matched the tone of the story so well. And just, it had that representation that I love as well. So it was just perfect. And the ending had a real climax. I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 stars because the development of some of the relationships I didn't think was strong enough. Which it hurts me to say because I loved the relationships that formed. I just don't think that the basis for each one was strong enough. If this book was 50 pages longer and it had 50 pages of really cultivating those relationships, I would have given it 5 stars. So I wish there was a sequel, but there isn't. So, sad times. So that was my December wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another. So,